Okay, take 20. Hi, I'm Arlie. I'm a retired graphic artist, now working on becoming a fine artist. I'm making videos to share my process as I learn different materials and figure some things out and discover my own style. And also I'm working on the inner critic, the voices in my head that seem to sabotage the things I'm doing. So there's some of that as well. Thanks for joining me. So I want to do a flip through of this sketchbook, and I have a bunch of other things to say, and I made a 1-hour video, and then I realized that the mic was off. So I've disconnected it. Now I'm back to the phone, the microphone in the phone. And also, then when I realized that, my battery was dead. So I'm going to do this flip through again, and I'm going to try to be more concise and hopefully won't run my phone out of battery, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm basically still going to say the same thing, but now that I've done it once, I mean, I've done it many times, but I did the one long one, and that's the one that didn't have the microphone. Hopefully I can do some of it faster. So first of all, I wanted to talk about stickers. I just wanted to say that when I was a kid, so this is from the 70s, this is my clipboard from the 70s. It went with me through high school and college and my jobs at different newspapers and stuff, and I love it. When people say sticker sneeze, this is sticker sneeze. And I think at one point I was finally just putting stickers on to hold the other stickers on. And when I use it, I have to use like a pad that has a backing. So this is 100% stickers. This is kind of where I am most of the time. I use a single sticker on the front to help me remember where the front of the book is. So when I pull it out of my bag, there's one sticker on the front. But I did this book and decided to go ahead and commit to stickers. This is sort of the grown-up version of sticker sneeze. Next, I want to talk about the sketchbook. I think you're supposed to say Moleskin. Most people say Moleskin. I had a smaller watercolor book and I loved it. So I thought, well, then I'll like the bigger one. Wrong, I hate the big one. The pages get warped with painting, and then you're kind of messed up. You can't, the pages are warped while you're working on them, and then when you try to work on the back of the page, those are warped as well. I tried taping it down. Sorry, the clickety-click noise is my dog walking around. I tried taping the pages down, I tried clipping the pages down, and so I'm never buying another one of these in this size. I like it in half this size, was great. And then I also tried a little tiny one, and I didn't like that one because the binding didn't let it open flat, which is the whole reason I like these books. They're supposed to open all, they have stitching, so you can open the book all the way flat. So that's my recommendation when you get a watercolor book. When you get a watercolor book, it might not work out the way you're thinking. That's one. Two, this book, I'm usually very frugal lately, last couple of years, and I try to use both sides of the pieces of paper, and I finally gave up on that at some point, and now I'm ready to just do the flip through and put it in the box. So that's like the last rites of every sketchbook. So that's what we're doing. I mean, I liked it, but I don't like the way the pages get wrinkly. I don't know if you can see it there, but they get kind of hard. They're not soft, and you can't put them back. You can't make them flat again. So, often I do swatching and stuff when I can't think of what to do, and I don't know why, but usually I do it on the last page, but for some reason I did it on the first page. I don't know why. I think I'm going to be speedier on this flip through than last time. I'm just going to kind of say what what medium I think I used, because I didn't always write it down and sometimes it's not easy to remember. And then also what I think I was working on at the time. So I started this book about a year ago, and I think I was working on skies, atmosphere, trees, and I'm always working on paths and bodies of water, trying to how to make water look like water, how to make a path look like a path, how to make concrete look like concrete. This is watercolor with, it looks like I did colored pencil on top, and I guess the white must be white watercolor, which is also gouache. This is me trying to figure out some way to use the back page, which this worked out fine. These were on my phone, so these were pretty much exactly the size of my phone, which made it pretty easy to compose them. These both, let's see, these are two photos from the same area. I don't know where I got these. One thing I realized when I did the first version of this, I wished I'd written more notes, and in general I wish I would write more notes, because I think, oh, I'll remember, and here I am not remembering. This has a story. I was trying to do a limited palette. I don't really like this painting, but I was up in the mountains at Trailhead, up probably 45 minutes away. And when I got home, I realized I was missing my water-soluble crayon in this color. And I ordered a new one because the set was incomplete, because I was now missing one. And then I kept thinking, all night long, I kept thinking, you know, if it's gonna snow, and then that water-soluble crayon is just gonna turn into a big puddle of paint or pigment or however you call it. And it was really bugging me. So I drove back up the next day and walked out into the field and found it. So now I have two of that color, which is fine because I like that color. So one of the things, anyone who has painted with me knows that this is my problem or my dilemma. I love looking at abstract art, and I know there's an abstract artist within me, and I don't know how to bring her out. So I don't want to copy someone else's abstract art, you know, just do this, just do that. And I want to figure out what is my personal path to be able to do abstract. And I think for me, it's when I do florals. When I do these florals, I'm thinking more in terms of shapes and composition, and it becomes less about the subject and more, well, I guess more what an abstract is, which is more like how I feel about it. And I'm still working on color accuracy, but I don't feel as self-judged by whether it's realistic. I don't know if that makes any sense. So in this book, there are a couple of these florals where I'm trying to sort of simplify the shape and play with the, you know, become more about what the shape is, and not about what it is depicting. This is from probably, if it's not my own photo, it might be from a website called Map Crunch, which is just a website. Go to Map Crunch, and it's just a random image from Google Street View. And then if you want to, you can still pan around and you can move up and down the road just like you can in Google Street View. It's just that it gives you a random starting point from somewhere in the world. Also, I was fascinated with the idea of painting these trees with a lavender color, because I'm noticing as I walk around and look at the world, there's a lot more orange in the trees and there's a lot more purple in the grass than you would just assume. And this is another thing that I was doing with the back of the page. There's another website, and I cannot remember the name of it, but I'll put it in the description. That's a good resource for photo reference for artists. This is a self-portrait that doesn't look anything like me. However, I really like this. I'm not sure why, and that's okay. I think one thing about me, Arlie, my style, is I like painting loose and then drawing tight. And what I mean by that is that, like, I just am relaxed when I paint. I don't try to blend, and it's okay when things are messy, because I know that in the next phase or in the last phase, I'm going to go in with a pencil or a tiny brush, and I'm going to add the little details that just like zoom, they bring everything together, like adding the glasses or the lapel of the shirt. Even this line becomes important. So this is Trixie. That's who's here in the room with me. This is Gouache. You're a good girl. More from the website that I can't remember the name of. This is the view from my office. The Garan Dash Neocolor 2. So there's Neocolor 1 is like a soft kind of buttery crayon, but you can't hit it with water. The water doesn't break it open. But Neocolor 2, you can draw and it's all nice and soft. Then you hit it with water and it becomes like gouache. So Neocolor 2 is almost like gouache in crayon form. So I think that's what I was doing here. I was coloring and then using water and then coloring and then using water. And this is the sunrise view from my office where I'm standing right now. It's not quite. This tree actually, there's a lot, well, I simplified. This isn't a great painting in my point of view, but what I do like about it is that I used a hot pink pencil to draw the outlines first, and that gave it a really interesting look. This is one of those abstracts. This is an amaryllis flower in front of a gray wall that we have. So this is from a photo, and I don't know if my son or I took it, but it's of a graveyard in Australia where I have relatives, well, dead relatives. But the reason that I wanted to work on this was to try to show how the sun was shining back here and not up front. I'm not sure I really accomplished that, but I do like that I like this. I think I did pretty well. I mean, I guess one of my hidden desires would be to be a children's book illustrator. And this is the kind of thing that I would imagine that you would need to be able to draw, a dark area with a light area through, you know, a sunshiny spot with, you know what I'm saying. So this is another thing I wanted to cover, and it's probably why my other video was so long. So the other video that didn't work because my microphone didn't work, and then my battery died. So there's kind of two ways to look at it. One is mother color. So I'm not going to explain mother color. You should look up mother color in painting. You could look it up on YouTube or Google. It's a way of making the whole thing look like together, unified. The other one is to paint a base color. So for gouache, and not for watercolor, because watercolor is transparent, I've been using these colors and I'm in love with them. These are flat or matte acrylics, and gouache is flat. And these are my favorites. And then basically, this is another word for the same product. It's called acryl gouache, but it's not gouache. It's also flat acrylic. And then I like Chinese red, and I like pale yellow. And usually the way I do it is I have a cheapy brush, and I drip a little bit of water. I put the tape down, I drip a little bit of water, I get a little tiny bit of paint on the brush, and then I just basically watercolor it on. And so I think this is this. And what it does is, until you're working super thick, it makes the whole painting like you've added a filter, in Instagram. So personally, I like those warm colors, those kind of fire, kind of candy colors. I've seen other people use ochre, and you could even use blues and greens. I tried a navy blue and it made my painting really depressing looking. So maybe I'm not doing it right. But I've seen a lot of people basically use these two colors, an orange and a pink. So if you were going to start anywhere, you could do these. And then if you don't have those, another product you could get is called Derwent inktense, one word, inktense. And hi, Trixie. You can get them as colored pencils, or you can get them, it looks like paint palettes, little cubes, and it's permanent paint. So, or permanent pencil. So you would put your color down with your pencil, and then you take a brush and you'd break it up, and then as soon as it dries, it's permanent. And so you want it to be permanent so that when you paint on top, it's not mixing with your color, it stays as a background. So so this was painted a year ago, and I'm still on this. I love this. I just bought this one, but I want it to be a little lighter, so I might try mixing it. And so then this is the last point I wanted to make. I'm talking really quickly because the last video was so long. I was at Meininger's art store, and which is in Denver. I was specifically looking for like a really specific yellow. And this guy there was like, what are you looking for and how can I help? And I explained to him what I wanted, and he goes, any color, any paint that you can mix with water can be mixed with another thing that can be mixed with water. So basically what he was saying was, until it dries, you can pre-mix any color you want. And so what he was encouraging me to do was to, start with a color and then mix in with anything else I have, any other pigment. So use watercolor, use acrylic. I even have water mixable oils. So if I can't find the exact color that I want, I still do have one more thing to say. If I can't find the color that I want, I might have to figure out this sort of mixing other things. But he said you have to think of everything that when you mix it with water, if something else mixes with water, that means those two things can mix together if you're looking for something, a specific color. The real last thing that I wanted to say is, sometimes when I'm going out doing plein air painting, which is where you paint on location, I look outside and I think, what color is the world today? So today I'm looking out the window while I'm talking, and it's this color, but I might mix in a little bit of, I don't see it. I think I'd make it a tiny bit more lavender, because it's just about to rain. And then there are other days where it's super sunny and shiny and bright. Or a couple of days ago, we were having smoke from the Canadian fires, and I might have gone with more of a cool pink or even Chinese red. And so you can see how it shows through. And also I've decided that it's okay to have a pink sky, because actually when you look outside, the sky isn't really blue, for at least here where I am. Half the time it's not blue, it's other colors. So I think that's why my other video was so long, because I wanted to say all those things. That's where I am right now in my painting, even though this was a year ago, that the underneath the background color is a really fun way to make your painting come together, because it's a lot of times that's the problem. You end up like, this is okay, and I did okay here, and this is okay, but it's kind of missing that, like, that gel together feeling that, pulls it all together. And so, but I do encourage you to look up mother color in painting, so that I don't have to tell you in this video, make it too long. This is in plein air, watercolor with a little bit of crayon on top. And then also, I've started flicking a little bit of atmosphere on top. It's really just, you take the brush and you can snap it like that, or you can thumb it. And it makes it kind of, to me, more like movement. It adds, not bugs exactly, but it does remind you that you're in a space. I'm here, these iris were right next to me, and then farther away was this structure. And then this was the path, and it just kind of adds a little, I don't know, I wish I knew the word for it, but if you're feeling like, my phone just buzzed, okay. If you're feeling like you have areas that look kind of flat, try just going with one of your colors, and it adds kind of motion and texture. Here's one that I did, I think it's this color. I don't know if this is my own photo or from one online. And this looks like I painted it with the Neocolor 2 crayons. Sand is hard to do. These are the Brighton beach boxes. They're in they're near Melbourne, in Canada. In Australia. And we walked down, did some painting down there, walked back up, had lunch, and I took a bunch of photos. So this is one of the ones that I did later at home. This is meant to be the hills behind my house, but it's not exact, and that's okay, but I know that. The land goes back, and then it goes back, and it goes back, but what I was painting were these sort of almond-shaped hills, which I thought were just so neat. It's kind of like the rest is just extra, but I really wanted to paint those hills. And then I love going in at the end and adding a little bit of drawing, and then it sort of snaps the whole thing together. This is the Brighton beach boxes, and I chose a limited palette, and then I'm just so fascinated with the trees there. They're called gum trees. And then Facebook has figured out that I'm into that. So now it keeps showing me, what's the name of it? Oh, that's so funny. I forgot the name of the group. Something about a gum tree, or something about gums, or something that's all gum trees. Photos taken by Australians or in Australia. So this is another one. I think I did it with this peachy color. Really great color. It's almost like you're doing whatever color the ground is, but saturated, meaning a little more colorful, less neutral. And this might have been from my own photo or from online. So in my opinion, if I were to sell this, I think I should find the source of the photo and give them credit. But since it's just in my sketchbook and it's just playing around, I don't feel like I need to credit. Although I think that's what's missing in this book is some little notes. So maybe before I put it away, I'll add some little notes. But this is a lesson to me in value. So I'm sure I was saying, what do I do to push back, because dark pushes. How do I make this push back? And then I had this blue, and so I added the blue. And even though I know there was no blue in the photo, I feel like this works great. And then I really like this yellow here, because then it kind of reminds you that you're outside and the sunshine is providing the color. I think I could have gone different on the sky. I mean, I like it, but I feel like I want these to be brighter and stand out more. I don't know. I feel pretty good about this one. I think the windows are good. This is a regret. I wish that I had straightened it out. I get stuck on what did it look like in the picture, in the photo, and then instead of kind of using my common sense, it really would have been better if I'd flattened it out. So this is a photo I took in Australia. It's an area called the Rocks, which is kind of near Sydney Opera House. These are really old buildings, but I think they're businesses and condos now. But I painted it at home. This is from a couple years ago. During the pandemic, I drove from Detroit to Niagara Falls. And I took so many photos. It was really beautiful. And it was a great time to travel because no one else was traveling. It was just after the pandemic. And so I keep going back to those photos. And it's really interesting because although it was fall colors, I still used this cool color as a background. And it just It's possible I used this one. I think it looks kind of neat. This part. This is gouache. And this, I saw this image, I saw this photo on Instagram, and I messaged the photographer and asked if I could paint his photo. And you don't have to do it, but it's ethically a good thing, like ethics, karma. So he's a professional photographer, and I wouldn't want to, act like I took the photo or anything, because I planned to paint it and put it online, and he gave me permission to do this, and then I tagged him in my image, Instagram. So, but what I wanted to say about this is, in terms of what I'm learning about color, it's something I've always known since I was a little kid, but you get really hung up in what other people tell you to do, and you forget those basic things that you already know. If you're like me, when you get a new set of crayons or whatever, you start aligning things up so that they, are color, so that the colors make sense. Do you know what I mean? Like this red is out of place, and so on. So, you get your box of crayons, and then it goes red, orange, yellow, like a rainbow. So remember that. Now think of when you have a coloring book. The coloring book is just white, and then it has the lines in it, and then you get to decide how you're going to fill it in, especially if it's something like a tablecloth or somebody's shirt. There's no thing that says this person's shirt was blue, therefore you have to color it in blue. You're sitting there as a little kid with your crayons, and you're like, I want it to be a yellow shirt, and you get your yellow out. So what I want you to know is that universally people like the colors that are adjacent next to each other to be adjacent next to each other. That's what adjacent means. So like yellow always looks good next to orange. Orange always looks good next to red. So when in doubt, go back to the rainbow. Go back to adjacent colors. And also, if you aren't working with your full palette, then make a rainbow. Like adjacent colors always look good next to each other, I guess is what I'm saying. And so when you can't think of another way to tackle the colors, pretend it's a coloring book and nobody told you what color it's supposed to be, and do your adjacent colors. So like blue is next to green, and then green is next to yellow, and then yellow is next to orange. It's not exactly orange, but I kind of lost it at the bottom here. But in terms of color confidence, almost universally, I don't know if there's like some other culture where adjacent colors is considered garish, but for us anyway, Western people, we like seeing colors next to adjacent colors next to each other. So that's just my opinion, or maybe it's a real thing, but it's my advice to you. If you're stuck trying to figure out how to do colors, try to do adjacent colors. Think about how they would sit how those colors would sit if you were organizing them. You wouldn't put, pink next to green, unless those are the only two colors you own. But, but if you maybe had blue, and then maybe you have, I don't know. Do you see what I mean? Like, you think about how you would arrange them just if they were just colors on their own. Let's see. That looks nice. So there. Okay, so there I have 6 colors. I think these all look nice. I think this looks good next to that one, and that one looks good next to that one. And if you were doing a rainbow, using only, if somebody handed you these and they said, here, organize these. So I don't think that one looks right. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's a handy way to think of your colors to do adjacent coloring, blah, blah, blah. It's stuff that you do learn in painting class, but it's not until you're actually painting that you realize, oh, I do need to think about this. So this is what's called a limited palette. My range of colors is from this brown to the blue, and I think I had a green. But what I wanted to talk about with this one, and I think this might be watercolor for the most part. This one is about, you can look these up, working from tea to pudding or tea to butter in terms of thin to thick. And you can go from really watery and a big brush that holds a lot of water to do your big areas. Then you go down a bit and you don't go quite as watery and you do your shapes. Then at the end, you use a much smaller brush that hardly holds any water and you scoop up the paint and you almost just go direct from paint to the paper and you end up with basically dry brush. So you're working in consistency from tea to, let's say, butter, and everything in between. And at the same time, you're going from a big watery brush to a middle-sized brush to a little tiny brush that hardly holds anything. So you have to keep going and collecting some paint and putting it on. And that's an oil painting idea, but it also really works with gouache, which it does dry up in your palette, but you can use a little mister and get it wet again. But that's one thing that I'm learning is that as you go, I'm gonna say it again, as you go from thin to thick, try also changing your brush to go from big and wet to thin that doesn't hold any water. And then I like the flat brushes at the end because you can turn them this way and get these textures, or you can turn them this way and get these lines. So I don't mean this to be a lesson to you. I'm just trying to sort of say what I'm learning as I go. And hopefully if you're somewhere near me in your learning process, you'll say, oh, yeah, I noticed that, or I never thought of that, or hopefully I'm helping you. So this is from a photo I took when we were on our road trip in Michigan, a different one, not the COVID one, but just this year we went on one. And this guy was sitting here fishing over the sidewalk, and so nobody could walk on the sidewalk because he was right here, so we had to walk around like this. And it was a windy day, and the lesson I know about this one is I wished I had painted it in a brighter room, because now I'm looking at it and it feels like everything is very middle colored. But on the other hand, it tells a story. I remember this, it's like a travel painting. Like I'll always remember the story that goes along with this. But the one thing that I'm really proud of is that these white spots are actually the white of the paper. And I was like, ooh, I did an advanced thing. I felt so advanced. This one is, I've been working on adding, I forget, there's some painter I keep seeing where the whole thing is all just shapes. It's like Matisse, but it isn't Matisse. And then one person's dress will have a pattern in it, or just a little piece of wall or a chair. And I keep thinking, I think that's what's missing for me when I do these flower close-ups, is to add pattern. And so this is actually the wire fence behind the roses, but I added it intentionally because I'm trying to figure out if, does that work for me, adding a pattern. I like it. I don't like the painting. I like this. I think I could have drawn it in, and that would have been cool too. So this one, I really like it. I think, is this professional level? I don't know, but I think I could have brightened it up a bit. I fight that sometimes. My paintings end up being kind of dark, not dark in personality or humor, but dark in value. But this has kind of everything I want. It came out really loose and nice, and excuse me, I had to clear my throat. I pre-painted, and I did this from a photo that I took when I was there also painting elsewhere in the area. This is the Flatirons above Boulder, and I was at the edge of the parking lot at NCAR, the, let's see, National Center for Atmospheric Research. And I think I made some good choices here, and the only thing I wish is that I put life in, like a bird, or maybe flick a little bit of texture right around here, maybe to show sort of, I don't know, bugs. I don't want to say bugs, atmosphere. So, and I think it could have gone lighter in the sky, but I think this shows progress. This was painted at home from a photo I took at the Chatfield Farms Denver Botanic Gardens Lavender Festival. So I took photos and painted while I was there, but I also took photos for later. And what I like here is the shadows. That's what I was working on. I'd be perfectly happy to just keep looking at that. I thought that was really interesting. So we went on a road trip just recently from Colorado to Michigan. I painted this the next morning, so it was May 28th. And this was actually a photo that I took from the rest area. And here I did the little dots because, I mean, there were all kinds of little flowers. How do you show them but just flicking? And then all of a sudden there's atmosphere. But really, I'm pretty proud of this one. I actually can't remember where I took this photo or whether I got it from online, but I did a darker color. I might have mixed some colors together, but you can see it. I don't know if I like these darker colors. I think I do better with brighter golden and pink, yellow. But I did remember to add some birds, and I probably could have flicked, a little bit of paint here just to add the way it looks, the atmosphere. I don't want to say bugs, but it is kind of, it's like movement. So let's see how short I can keep the story that goes with this. There was I don't want to say homeless. I don't even know if he was homeless, but there was a guy near me when I was painting this. I was by myself. My son was still up in the hotel room. This is in Milwaukee. And I felt safe, but I was painting. And so I knew I was going to be engrossed in what I was doing and not able to pay attention, which that makes me feel unsafe. So not really having anything to do with the guy, but that the guy was kind of hovering and also talking a lot. And so I messaged my son and I said, could you come sit with me? And so he did. He came and sat with me. And that is why I often call friends to go paint with me, just so that I can really get into what I'm doing. And I know there's a buddy nearby, just in case something happens, because I get really into it. So I finished my painting and he was behind us and he chatted with us and said it was a beautiful painting. And then he, talking to himself, had a whole conversation about his experience with painting, and everything was fine. But I like the painting, but I also like that there's a whole story that comes with it. But I never drew the duck bills in. And then let's see what else. This has that. I'm not sure I actually took these paints with me. I think I might have I don't know. I don't think I brought big things like this, even though it was a road trip, so I did have room to bring stuff. It's possible I did. It's funny, I absolutely cannot remember. But you can see this is this little piece of the color that's left over. And you can see that it's uneven because I do it really roughly, because to me, that's kind of how the world is. The world isn't like all... although I like looking at other people's art where the gouache is all flat and equal in real life, and plus I have a little bit of a vision problem. There's just a lot of movement and stuff going on. So I like it when it has unevenness. This is a photo I took from the car in, I don't know, Wisconsin or something. And I wished, even though in the photo this was crooked, I wish I had straightened it. And then I was just painting it here at home. It's not like I was painting this on the road. I painted it after we got back. But I wanted to say I didn't like my big green blob here. And then once I added the purple and the red, which is a whole other color theory, because these are opposite each other on the color wheel, so they have a tendency to move, they vibrate. And so by adding red on green, it causes movement on its own. It's not harmonious because it's not adjacent. Adjacency is harmonious. But when it's opposite on the color wheel, green and red are opposite each other, then they just don't sit well, and they become active. And so your eye goes right to these lines. That's actually neon pink. This was painted on location in Michigan at the, I don't know, what is it called? The Salmon Bridge or something? Salmon? It's one of those things where the fish jump up, but it was closed. It's this thing. So we sat nearby and painted. And again, just like mist on the water, I flicked the brush on top, and I really enjoyed this part. And then I did a couple things that I see other people do, and I always want to try it. One is to, when something like a branch is in front of a light background, you can go darker. And then when it's in front of a medium background, you can go medium. And that adds that, I don't know, I don't know what the word is, but to vary the colors here, even though I knew sitting there looking at it that all these leaves are the same green color, that my artistic license is that I can change what I want to change. And by just making these a little darker as they're extended out over the light areas, it added a certain kind of depth. So I was really excited about that. And then the other thing is to just take the brush and point it like this and just scrub the trees in. And I was like, oh, I love this, because I really have been struggling with how to paint trees. And that trees really are actually just big blobs, really. So I did it here and did it here, and I felt like I had really conquered two things that I've been working on. And then, as always, I like going in and drawing the lines of things. Not too much. Here I do. I think I might have, is that pen? That might actually be pen, the little grate. Because to me it like tightens it all up. So having learned that, I don't know what day that was, but I think this is the day before this. This is a, gosh, what's it called? The something caves, or gosh, it's so funny that I can't remember names of things. Anyway, there's all these cool caves down below, but then there's these viewing points way up high. And so we sat up at a viewing point looking down on this bay. And even though the trees weren't these colors, I was really excited to be able to figure out that you can just add the shapes of the trees. This really is how it looked to me, even though the colors might not be right. And I just felt really excited. I felt sort of empowered that I had figured this out. So, I mean, you really don't know. If you don't try, you don't know what the solution is going to be. The other thing is that I've been really going toward pink skies and being okay with it. You almost don't notice it, or I don't notice that this is a pink sky, and also yellow works as well. This is painted at home, but it was a photo I took on the same trip. I just had some Nebraska pull-off. But I like practicing water. I like it when there's a foreground thing coming in like that. This is gouache on pink. I don't know which pink. Sometimes I mix them together, which is why it's hard to match them. This is straight watercolor from a photo, and then I added a little bit of blue in a couple of places. This is gouache. Story goes with this one. I chose the hotel in Lansing, Michigan, because it had a big field nearby. And I thought, since I get up really early, I'll go paint while my son sleeps in. He's 23. And I didn't know it, but this is the landfill. So it smells really bad. I just went and took a bunch of photos, and I've been painting from the photos, but it's beautiful. There's all these wild daisies, and just, it was really beautiful. And there was a fire nearby, so there was a pink color to everything. So it worked for me to use these warm background colors. This is later after I got home. I feel really good about this painting. It's a little busy, but I painted it on location at the Denver Botanic Gardens in downtown Denver. And I think I really nailed a couple of things. I feel really good about the way that I got the trees in and didn't feel like everything had to look a specific way. I used value more than color, and I feel really good about this shadow. I feel pretty good about this reflection. So I did gouache, and then I drew on top. But this is, I took myself out on a date. I went there, you know, I bought the tickets ahead of time. I packed my stuff. It's about an hour and a half drive from my house. Spent the day, packed some lunch. It's really good. This is a marina near me. This is also gouache plus a little bit of pencil. I think what I do is I try to add the pencil to tighten things up, but I could have done a better job on the boat. But overall, I'm okay with it. And this looks like I used a really light yellow, possibly J beige. I think it means Japanese beige. So there is a story that goes with this. I'll see if I can tell the very shortest version. This is hollyhocks in my own garden, and I'm sitting down to paint, and I climbed up into the garden, which is kind of terraces, to pull a weed, and I fell. I fell out of the garden. I fell hard. I hurt myself pretty bad, but I didn't break anything. And so I did the whole painting and finished it before I went in and put my arm and leg on ice. And it's been a couple of months, and it's just now finally healing. So I don't know why I didn't just go in and take care of myself right then, but I felt sort of determined. And maybe the rush of emotions and the pain and endorphins and all the things that happen is why I worked so dark. I don't know. Anyway, that's this. I like the painting, but it means a lot more to me because it's the day that I basically somersaulted out of my garden. And we have a Ring camera, but it didn't catch me. It's just so funny. And then for these, I switched to a paint called Gansai Tambi. If you can see, I don't know if you can see. It's sort of shiny. And it's Japanese paints that are meant to be, well, no paint is meant to be used a certain way. But what I think of it is as like tissue paper on top of tissue paper. And so it has a layering effect. And then on different paper, it works really well for me. Much more absorbent paper, like the Etcher watercolor books. And on this paper, it ended up looking much more blotchy than I preferred. This is actually meant to be water. Not happy about this one. This is also Gansai Tambi, and it's and then I drew on top, and it was really fast. I worked really quickly. I did this on location. Also on location, this is gouache. So this is at the lavender field. They were just about to have the lavender festival, so everything was all lavendery. And it's the Chatfield Farms at Denver Botanic. And the reason I'm saying it so like that is because they now have their own Instagram page. So you could probably go to their Instagram page and use some of their photos for practicing if you were interested. But it's nice because it's used to be an old farm. Now it's a botanic garden. And so it's a little of everything. It's got buildings and flowers and trees, and it's got this beautiful Rockies background, which for some reason always thunderstorms right at the end of the day, and it was starting to get to that point. Lavender is hard to paint. This is from a photo I took years ago. It's watercolor here and then gouache here. And one thing with watercolor is both patience and like you have to leave it. You have to, like, I put this piece in, and then you just can't touch it, because as soon as you do something to it, you'll get those little broccoli things. And like this is a broccoli thing. It works in the sky because it kind of looks like rain. But anyway, like you put it on and you just have to leave it and cross your fingers that you did the right thing. And so it really only just comes with practice. Nobody can talk you through becoming comfortable with watercolor. You just have to keep doing it until you are comfortable with it. And this one I just did this week. It looked terrible. And I keep working in my office with just a table lamp at night, and I really need to stop doing it and do it more in the daytime when it's brighter. But I didn't like it, and then I got my Neocolor 2 crayons out, and I did this tree, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's when I added all these extra things, and then I feel like I saved the painting. So that's it. Hopefully the microphone worked. And hopefully you got something out of this video, and let me know what you think. And then while I'm editing, I'll add whatever else I can think of in the description. Thanks for watching.